Okay, so if you work with data, you know this feeling, right? You build a perfect report, you've checked all the numbers, it looks super clean, and then it just lands with a thud. Nobody acts on it. Well, today, we're going to fix that. We're going to explore how to turn that dry data into a compelling story that actually, finally, makes an impact.
So let's start with a question that I'm betting we've all asked ourselves at some point. You spend hours, maybe even days, creating this beautiful, data-packed dashboard. It's accurate, it looks great, but when you present it, crickets. Nothing happens. Why does all this hard work so often fall completely flat?
You know, this problem is so common it actually has a name: the visual data trap. It's that pitfall of creating reports that look fantastic but don't really communicate anything meaningful. And the reason it's such a trap, it's psychological. Our brains are wired for stories, for cause and effect. Our brains are just not wired to decode a giant spreadsheet. And this is where good data can unfortunately go really wrong.
Yeah, and this slide right here, it just nails the core problem. On the one hand, you've got data presentation. It's totally passive. It just lists the facts, it shows you the what. But on the other hand, you have data storytelling. This is active, it's persuasive, it connects the dots and explains the so what. And that right there is what drives action. It's a crucial shift in thinking.
So, how do we end up falling into this trap? Well, it's usually through a few classic mistakes. We stick to the default charts our software gives us. We just throw a sea of numbers at our audience and kind of hope they'll find the insight themselves. And critically, we just don't have a clear story or point. We don't use design to guide their eyes, and we totally forget to tell them what to do next.
All right, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, it's all about becoming a data storyteller, not just someone who presents data. And the key to unlocking that story, the one that's already hiding inside your numbers, is using a framework.
Okay, first things first, let's get on the same page. What even is a data story? Look, it's not about making things up or just cherry-picking data. It's a structured approach that brilliantly combines three key things: the hard data, the clear visuals that make those numbers shine, and a compelling narrative that ties the whole thing together into one powerful message.
And here it is. This is the framework, the secret sauce, really. Just like any good story you've ever heard, it follows a clear structure. You start with a hook to grab their attention, maybe a shocking number or a really sharp question. Then you introduce the conflict, the problem the data is screaming about, that metric that's way off target. Next comes the resolution, where the data itself points to the solution. And you always, and I mean always, end with a clear call to action. You tell your audience exactly what they need to do next.
And this is absolutely crucial. The storytelling starts long before you even think about opening your visualization tool. You have to dig into your data. You've got to ask it questions, poke it, prod it, and find that core insight, that so what that's going to be the heart of your entire narrative. The story comes from the insight, not from the software.
Okay, so once you have your story locked in, then it's time to think about the visuals. But we're not just making charts here. We're deliberately choosing specific tools, like a storyteller would, that are designed to push the narrative forward and make our point totally unforgettable. Look, it is time to move way beyond that default bar chart. Instead of one giant, confusing chart, try using small multiples to make comparisons super clean and intuitive. Use conditional formatting, not just to add some color, but to automatically put a spotlight on the hero or the villain in your data story. And definitely use interactive things like slicers to let your audience follow the exact narrative path that you've laid out for them.
And you got to remember this: design is not decoration. It is direction. Every single choice you make, the colors you pick, the empty space you leave, the way you line things up, it all has to be strategic. You're the director, using these tools to focus your audience's attention exactly where you want it to go.
All right, theory is one thing, right? But let's actually see how this plays out in the real world. We're going to take a totally typical, pretty unengaging report and transform it, step by step, into an impactful data story.
So here it is, our before dashboard. And yeah, it's got data. There are numbers, there are charts, there's a map. But what is it saying? What am I even supposed to look at first? There's no message, no focal point, no story. This is the visual data trap in action. It's basically a data graveyard.
Okay, first step. We apply strategic color. And notice, we're not making a rainbow here. We're using one single attention-grabbing color to highlight the core conflict in our data. Instantly, your eye is drawn right to the problem that we need to solve. Everything else just fades into the background.
Now, step 2 is all about the layout.
We're not just randomly placing charts wherever they seem to fit on the page. We are intentionally creating a narrative flow, from top to bottom. We're building a path that guides the viewer's eye from the hook at the top down through the conflict we just highlighted and landing on the resolution. It actually reads like a page now.
And boom. Here is the after. Now look, this is the exact same data, but now it tells a powerful, undeniable story. You see the hook in the title, the conflict literally leaps off the page in that bright color, and the whole thing just flows towards a clear, unmissable call to action at the bottom right. The difference isn't just cosmetic, it's the difference between inaction and actual impact.
So you're probably thinking, this is great, but how can I do this with my own reports? Let's break everything we've just talked about down into a simple toolkit that you can start using today. Here are your key takeaways. If you remember nothing else, remember this. 1. Always start with the story, not the chart. Find that so what first. 2. Use that 4-part narrative structure: hook, conflict, resolution, and call to action. 3. Use your visuals and design choices strategically to guide attention. 4. Always design for clarity, not complexity. Less is almost always more. And 5, never ever forget to end with a clear, specific action for your audience to take.
The truth is, every data set you have, every single report you build, has a story locked inside it, just waiting to be told. The only question left is, are you ready to tell it?